Okay, so basically, this is the track that we're going to do today. So we're going to do two upbeat ones and a downbeat one and an upbeat one. So the first one that we're going to do is hello. Say again. Let's just check. Okay, so we're going to do Ashford and Simpson's "Found a Cure," which is a classic disco record, which goes like this. If you're not familiar with it. Quite piano driven. So what I've done there is I've extracted all the vocals from that, and the vocals are now down here. Look, so So as you can see, the vocals have been taken away. Now I've used AI obviously to do that. Well, I say AI, it's the vocal extraction thing. And if I'll show you the link for that later on. But basically, it's a website where you just stick any MP3 or WAV file in, and it just takes away the vocal. I'm sure you've seen it. And it removes the vocal. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. It depends on the quality of the original. Modern records are not so bad, but older disco records can be a little hit and miss, but this one seems to have turned out okay. Which, if you listen to the vocals, for your heartache before you wait, so it's quite clean. Take no medicine. Yeah, obviously there's a couple of little tiny glitches in the instrumental, but in general, it's done really well. So we're going to chop that up, and then I'm going to add to it drums, etc., etc. So let's crack on, and then we'll go from there. No, Mike, the files weren't sent. I'm going to send you the files later on, and you can use them. Boris, I'm going to show you the link for that website in a second. I'm going to put it all in one bundle at the end of the session anyway. But just for now, there's the link to the website if you need it. But everything that I'll show you today, you can grab all the files and put both of these tracks into Ableton, into documents, and zip them up for you so you can take them away. So, okay, so basically, when doing disco edits, the thing to do is obviously find something that it's not too busy, rather than trying to have a track that's got a load of orchestras and stuff. You know, sometimes that can be a bit of a problem. Try and find stuff that's quite minimal so that you can add to it. Which is what I try to find. I try not to use disco records that are bulky, in a sense. But this one's quite a busy track in a sense, but it's well produced. It's really clean. So the track, as I say, starts with just a guitar, a bass, and a drum, building up. So there's your kind of loop already. You've got that beginning loop already, if that makes sense. So just keep on that one note all the way, which is, I think, a B. I've not got an instrument up. It's just one all the way until it gets here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and again. And then it changes chord here. So there's another loop right there. That can be kind of your second loop, you know. So what you've got to try and do is take generally 4 or 5 loops out of a record, not many more than that if you have to, and just kind of rotate them, because the whole purpose of doing an edit is to take out the best bits and generally leave the chorus out. And you know, that's generally what we're going to do. We're not going to use the chorus. If we do, it'll be in a dubby sort of section, rather than as a chorus. And I'll get to that in a bit. So, for example, we're going to whip through, and the way I find loops in Ableton is I shorten this quite small to maybe 4 kicks, and then I put on my looper, and I'll just whip through it, and then go, there's my first loop. So then what I'll do is I'll break that off like that, snap it off, and just change the color of it, so I know I've got something there. Again, work through the whole thing. That bit there's getting busier than that bit. That's your beginning bass. the piano's rising. You could take that bit, but I would generally have probably just this bit, and you can build on that. That'll be the first loop, and then and then you build with that bit. So that there is perfect. So follow on from the first one. But yeah, I would do that, and then you've got that bit, and there's your main hook. You can extend that like so. And if there's a tiny glitch in there, you can generally hear it, because this is extracted. So there's going to be artifacts in there that have been kind of wobbled a little bit from the extraction where the vocal's been removed. But it's few and far between. You can just straighten them up. And when you've got your drums laid on top, it's gone a little bit better, but you can't quite hear it once you've got your drums laid and stuff. So I'm going to use that loop as well there. I'm going to change that to red. And then go through the rest of the track. It's mostly very similar. You know, when you remove the vocal, you realize how underneath the vocal there's not a lot going on. So it's all the same. You could take that bit, but I'm going to try and avoid that bit. If it's got brass under it now, it's building again. You can take that whole section there. There you go, there's another loop. See, but also within the, when you're doing these sort of tracks, within them, you've got loops like that, shorter loops, on auto filter. Kind of experiment with the auto filter and see how taking a shorter loop, you can use it as a build-up. So you can also read between the lines and go down to just 2 kicks, 1, 2, 3, and then just shorten it again. Kind of Daft Punky sort of, you know, filtering. So it's always important to keep trying to shorten your looper when you're looking for a little groove. As well, don't overlook the smaller parts as well. So got that lot. Okay. Any no, not there. So now we've gone from the chorus, which is here. Let's just play the vocal. Changing. Drop there. So you've got that brass section there. So you could take that entire section there, and we'll have that one as well. So let's keep that one. Change the colour of that to pink. Right. Okay. Next up, going through. This bit's quite a good one. It's quite minimal. Again, you can build on it. So there, from there. Quite like that bit. There's loads of really cool piano licks in it. There. There's kind of your final bit. So that entire section, you could take either the first part or the second part. So I'm going to take that first part. That bit's a really good loop. I've never edited this track before, by the way. This is the first time I've edited it. I've used it in DJing loads of times, but I've never edited it. So if we put the vocal on, you'll hear now. So that needs to be moved over a bit. It comes in just there. That's obviously gone out of warp there, but for example, just for so yeah, so basically that's where we're at with it. We've got all of those loops. So when you're editing a disco record, the important thing is to just take 4 or 5 or 6 loops out of it, instrumental as much as you possibly can, and then scrap the rest, because you can spend far too much time pondering over how many, loops to have, and you genuinely don't need a lot. This is a bit insane as that, but without the string. But so I'm not going to use any of that. I'm going to get rid of all of that now. And then we're left with what we've got here. So we've got these small loops here. And bearing in mind, I'm also working in arrangement view. I never do chopping up in session view, unless you're doing a live sort of DJ sort of jam. It's just not worth doing in there because you transfer it all over and it can get a bit messy. So we've now got all of these loops here. We've got 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loops, but obviously one is quite a big one. So we'll get to the vocal later on. I'm just going to put the vocal out of the way for now and just come back to that later. So we've got these loops. Let's just quickly play them through in succession. They'll sound weird. There's the beginning bit, second bit. Those could be one loop actually. And then the big bit. So there you go. So we've got all of those loops. That's more than enough that we need now for a disco edit. Get rid of everything else, and just work on these. So then, obviously, this is 120 BPM. It's naturally 114. So what I've done is I've just got some drums which we'll go through in a minute, but I've speeded it up to 120. Just to give it, more of a housey sort of tempo, I suppose. But we're not going to make house. Obviously, I'm not going to turn it into a disco house record. It's going to stay as disco as possible with the drums. So I'm going to mute the loops, and I'm just going to play the drum loops. So there's the drum loops that we've got. That's the beat that we've got. And I'm going to break it down and explain how I've used those sounds as well. And again, with your drums, when you're layering drums, sometimes you can end up having 20 or 15 to 20 different drum tracks. You don't really need to do that. I mean, I'm a minimalist anyway, so it's natural that I do that. But some people can tend to overproduce the tracks. And it's one thing you shouldn't try not to do is to overproduce stuff. So like you'll have 2 kicks. Sometimes it requires 2 kicks, depending on what you're making. Then you'll have a clap, then you'll have 3 or 4 hi-hats, and then you'll have a loop, and then you'll have a conga, and a bell, and then loads of other drums and stuff. And you generally don't need it. 5 or 6, 7, 8 at the most. Obviously, I've got to put a crash in here, but we don't really count the crash as in terms of a main sound because it's only used every 16 or so. So drums, right, for the kick then, with something like this, because it's quite a chunky sample track anyway. The production of the original is pretty cool anyway. What you want is a kick that's not techno-y, so you don't need a 909 kick or anything like that. You need to just have something that's kind of just got a good round punch to it, not too banging, not too flumpy. And this kick here, I don't know. I mean, this will be in the package anyway when you download the template. But I don't know where this has come from. I've had it for years. It's a kick that I use a hell of a lot. So a lot of my tracks consist of this kick because it's just a well-rounded kick. It just sounds great. And then you put the loops on, and obviously under there you can hear 2 kicks fighting. So then to get over that, what we need to do is obviously I'm going to use for the purpose of this, I'm going to use the built-in Ableton EQ, and I'm going to get it up, the EQ8. And all you do to something like that, you would just change channel 1 to a low pass filter. let's get to the bit where where it's busy. There we go. So just bringing him just around 40 hertz, somewhere like that. There. If I solo it, take it off. You probably might be able to hear it through your headphones at the moment, but when you roll off the bottom end, then it allows the yaw kick to come through a lot better, and it's not fighting the original disco kick on the original loop. So you just want it to just have that nice sort of punch to it. Obviously, I've got to time these up yet. Some of these are a little bit out. So with these, just grab your little yellow transients and just pull them as close to the line as possible. And keep it on Beats Pro. Sorry, Beats on there. And obviously vocals you put onto Complex. So depending on how badly how good the warp is. But Ableton's update, if you've got Ableton's update, it's now naturally warps everything for you, pretty much, which is pretty good. So that sounds all right. So yeah, you know, that's the kick drum, as I say, just a nice round kick. Next up then, you want some sort of snappy claps. And with claps, problem with claps is you don't want, again, you don't want an 808 or a 909 clap in a disco record, obviously. You know, you want a natural sort of hand clap, live hand clap, like just something that's really kind of delayed at the start, kind of got a bit of a delay. Can you see how it doesn't quite hit on the quantize? So it's always good to have that kind of loose clap rather than a rigid quantized clap. So it just gives a natural human feel to it. Just slightly off, but it fits. So, yeah, that's clap. We're going to put some reverb on that as well in a minute. With claps, you want to put on a reverb that is a room reverb. So I have a big room or a bright room. I tend to go for bright room. Change the dry wet to about 15 to 20. Let's start at 15, 14. So if I solo it, you might be able to hear it. If I put it up, you can hear the density of the room. Just somewhere around, maybe a bit more decay. Just to give that little bit of tailing end off at the end. But these are small details we'll do later. If I take that off now, see, different. And same for the cowbell. We've got this cowbell loop here. You want to have that kind of natural cowbell as samples within your track, just to give it that disco feel. Get these off. It just gives it a bit of percussive movement in there, I suppose. So yeah, these are just the little details that you want to have in your track, just to give you drums movement rather than having loads and loads of drums. Just have 4 or 5 key sounds within there, which is the best thing to do. And next up then, percussion loop, hi-hat, sorry. We've got some natural, genuine hi-hats in there, rather than a straight up one. And there you go. There you go. They're closed hats, but they're more like they're more riding sort of hats rather than strict. You get to that later. You'll get that with the open hats, which are these. And these are 2 sounds that I've got out of Ableton. You can hear the rawness of that. It comes from a live drum. So I've gone over to here. I don't know what sort of program what package you've got on Ableton, but within Ableton's samples, it's in here, look, there. So I've got a closed one, which was this one. Where is it? There. One of these. So put that in as the closed one, and then just gel them together. That gives you your classic straight up beat. And there you go. And there's your kind of drums on that. So there's basically the beats in general. And then obviously I've got a percussive loop on top of that, which is just a very, like another sort of snare, like a snare clap, but it's more of a snare. underneath, and that turn that high up down, it's quite loud. And that's it. There, your drums. That's all you pretty much need for this kind of thing, really. You don't need a whole load of. And then congas, obviously, bongos, congas, whatever you want. And that's just the loop from a sample pack. You just want something that's not dead busy, just a simple bum 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 bum, simple. Build it back up. There you go. There we are. What time is it? So basically, that all in all, that kind of putting those sort of beats together would take you, 15, 20, 30 minutes maybe. And the thing, what I tend to do, which is a good thing, is always is have good housekeeping. I know it sounds ridiculous, but when you're making a track, we're so overwhelmed with stuff now. To select the drum sounds, Boris, it takes, as I say, it took about 15, 20 minutes of going through multiple packs, half an hour probably in total, but then taking out the ones that you like and then saving them in a favorites folder so you can refer to them quickly. That's why I always use that same kick, because we're overwhelmed with stuff now. You all know sample packs and the options we have and presets, and it's just astronomical the amount of stuff we've got. So it's best to always just try and collect a bunch of sounds, no more than 5 or 10 kick drums and snares and claps. Just keep a certain core section of sounds and just use them over and over again, because you don't need to have 100 kick drums. I mean, I've got probably 300, but you don't need to use them, and I don't use them. I've got hundreds that I don't use, and I don't know why I don't just delete them. But yeah, housekeeping and stuff is vital. So it's just a quicker workflow. That's what I think anyway. If you're doing stuff all the time, and you're spending 20, 30 minutes on a kick, what the concept of that, it's just a waste of energy, isn't it? So try and have 5 or 10 kicks, no more, and then just rotate them, or just have the one kick like I do. And that's it. Obviously, I've got kicks for other things. If I'm making techno, sometimes I'll have a harder 909, but generally for disco, that kick is the one I use all the time, and I'll put it in the pack for a bit. So right, let's move on to the arrangements. We've got all of these loops. We know what we're doing now. Everyone okay with that so far? Is everything all right? Question wise, you're all good? Yeah. Anything sticking out that you're not sure of? So arrangement. We've got the loops. How do we go about it? I mean, sometimes, obviously, I don't know how many of you use reference tracks. I tend to very rarely use reference tracks unless I'm completely copying an old record. But in terms of starting a track, you've got two ways about it. You've got the DJ friendly version where you go straight in with the kick, or the perk and then the kick, or you can go straight in and be a bit more creative, a bit more, I don't know, challenging with just the loop and filter the loop in, and then bring the claps in, and then bring the hi-hats in, and then the kick. That's one way of doing it. But so I'm going to probably go in with this one. Obviously that loop there. So we're going to get that. And I'm going to start the arrangement over here. So basically, some people kind of start their arrangement at 0, at 1, and they build it across. What I tend to do is always, I mean, I'm pretty sure plenty of other people do, is build the groove there and then start the arrangement over here. And then once we've got all of the samples in the track, then I just delete all of this area and then bring it back. So otherwise, you're going to be, toing and froing. So first loop, then I'm just going to copy this over, and then let's get this over 4 times. 4 times 8. Okay, 4 and 8. Sorry. So we've got that one. But what I'm going to do with it, I'm going to automate it on the filter. So I'm going to consolidate that for now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an auto filter on there. It depends what auto filter you use. I mean, I don't mind the Ableton one. I think it's good enough anyway. And I'm going to automate the frequency from here, from just about Let me just go. Yeah, but let's have a look. And I'm going to keep it flat for quite a while. And then I'm going to copy it over again, and then I'm going to just delete those dots. And I'm going to raise it slightly at the next point. Build it up. So we've got, let's just have a look. We're starting at 1 minute and 15 seconds. So we're starting at 1 minute 15. And then the first loop goes up to 45. So you've got half a minute there in that section alone. You want the disco, you want your edits to be kind of 5.5 minutes maybe nowadays. I think generally in terms of edits being 7 minutes now or 8 minutes is quite, it's a bit of an odd one now. So you could either go two ways. You could go straight in with the kick and the loop, which is obviously a good way of, you know, because if you DJ it, you're going to cut the bottom end out anyway, aren't you? Well, I would. And then see, then at this point, you could either keep it going, but then what you should do is when we get to the half a minute point, bring in the hats, keep the loop going. I'm just going to change the frequency on that and bring it up again even more. There. So at this point, it gets louder, and then the kick drops out, and the hi-hats come in. The natural kick is staying on there. And then you go full up. But that point there, you go full up there, and then at this point, then what we'll do is add like an impact sound, a rise effect sound, so that it gives us the transition to go into the next loop, which will be that one. Same as that, isn't it? They're the same, I've just realized. So we might as well just extend that first one. So my bad on that. And then we'll go into that one there, but we'll bring the kicks back in. Let me widen that loop. Keep the hats going again. Then we're moving to the next loop. And we're now at kind of the 2 minute and 15 mark here. So you're kind of like a minute and a half into the track, and you've just built the intro. So get an impact sound. So for example, I'm just going to type in white noise and just get, obviously, there's, again, thousands and thousands of these online. I'm sure you've got plenty of white noise sounds. So I'm going to put that there, right click on that one, and then I'm going to reverse that one. So we've got two. So bring the volume down. And then we're into the next one, which I think just needs a bit of tidying up. So bear with me a sec on this. Just get these transitions on the line. Even the slightest bit off and it can ruin the track. So you've got to be quite careful. There we go. And that's where you'll bring in your claps. You probably bring your claps in halfway at this point, and then there. So, excuse me, there. And then we need a crash. So I'm going to go back into my sounds, get a crash. And the crash that I want is an acoustic 13, which is a natural disco crash, which is one of the best crashes on Ableton stock. And I'm going to put that there like so. So let's have a quick recap on what we've got. So you've got your intro with your filter at the halfway point coming up. And at that point, you could put a crash there as well. So go. Put some reverb on that as well. Turn that up, turn that down a bit. And at this point where it just starts to build up the loop. Could put another crash there, but I think it's better without because it drops out. Perfect. Put some reverb on that wiser noise. Rise noise. And then your claps coming at the halfway point here. So always something is coming in. It's not repeating, it's not just staying the same. Always adding something every 16, 32. White noise. then you've got that bit. So at this point, you could have a bit of the vocal, which we'll get to. And then from there, you duplicate all that over again, and then we'll put in the open hi-hats this time, which is, if I just, I don't know what I've done there, but I've managed to put my, that's it, right, get them in there, and then get your open hats in at this point. There we go. And then we're going for the red loop. So you can put the red loop in at that point there. But at this point, when we've repeated that, so we've got, let's just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Repeat that. At this point, I would put this in here, like so. Now, and then you're off into that loop. See what I mean? So you've kind of, it's changing all the time, but it's not staying stagnant, you know, because some edits can just repeat themselves and go on and put a crash there. But before each change, take out the last 4 kicks. So remove the last 4 kicks. So you've got that little dip in the transition. And you could also put a reverse crash. So you could copy the crash over and then reverse it. So it goes. There we are. But at that point, I would copy that over one more time and then add in your perks on the second part and a crash. So it's like, turn that up a bit. That's kind of your snare bit. There's a bit of EQ that just, I'm just getting a bit of EQ on that for now. I need to put that on there. Everyone okay? Any questions? Everyone all right? Good. Oh, cool. Yeah, it's quite a weird one, this doing it for this many people at the same time. Yeah. So you have to bear with me if I get a bit unstuck sometimes. Okay, so we've got the red one. Then the snare will come in. And then when we get to this point, we're now a minute and 40 seconds into the track. So got a way to go yet. So I would keep, let's have a look at the rest of the loops, the green one. So you could have that one or the pink one. I'll probably go for the green one. Let's go for the green one. Place that in at this point. And then we'll bring in the cowbells. So put those cowbells in there. And what we could do here. Oh, did you EQ each track at the end? Oh, in terms of EQing, I EQ Mike as I go along, I suppose, in some ways, but obviously I do a lot of mixing at the end. So basically, it depends if something immediately needs EQ. You know, like what I did with the loop. I took the EQ out at the bottom immediately because it needed doing there and then. But generally, everything gets EQ'd towards the end mostly. But it's trial and error, really. If it's terrible at the start, yeah, obviously it's kind of a work in progress, isn't it? So, but generally, EQ. I mean, I've not done any EQ on any of these yet. Look, I've just not even the kick's not got any EQ on yet. None of the drums have got EQs on. Nothing has, except that's it. They're all dead at the moment, except the loop. The main loop's got an EQ on, I'm sure. So I did that one, didn't I? So yeah, not at the moment. So when we put the kick on the EQ, I mean, if we did that now, for example, and beefed it up a bit, bring that bottom end out straight away, it makes a huge difference. It's just a case of adding slight bits to it, really, as we go along. But when it comes to it at the end, we just go through the whole thing. And that crashes out of time. There we go. Then you can have this loop here. But then what we'll do with this loop See, what we'll do here, we'll drop all the drums out and have this bit filtered up and down. So basically, I'm going to quickly automate my auto filter on MIDI. So if I quickly press MIDI and then I change that and that. So I'm going to now use my dials on my controller to filter this green one and give it some resonance so that when it kicks back in here with all the drums, it's got an impact. So you'll see what I mean. I said, put on your overdub button and then drop it down. So you're going to give it a bit of character, resonance on the up. The filter, and then as natural as possible at the end. So I'll show you what I mean. So if I get this loop again, get a fresh one that's not been automated, and then put all my drums in at the last bit there, keep the cowbells going, put the cowbells in there obviously for the purposes of this, and then we'll probably give them a bit more volume there. Bear with me a sec. Better. And then we'll copy this section over again with the white, the riser noise. And away you go. So yeah, so that's kind of where it goes with in terms of building an edit. Don't go in full on at the start, trying to keep things back. So, you know, rather than go straight in and start like that, you're giving away everything too soon. You just got to gently build it up. And that's what I've done there, filtered it up. So the next loop then could be what I'm going to do is I'm going to save those two. I'm going to flip them around and put them towards the end of the track. And the next thing we're going to do is we'll go straight into the pink one, the main kind of hook. So what we could do here at this point, we could keep this going for that amount of time, then repeat this again. So you're kind of coming back on yourself. So what you got to remember is we arrange these things like house tracks anyway, where we do a lot of, you know, looping and repeating. So this bit dropped down, this bit drops down again. You could at this point add some drum fill or anything like that, you know, if you wanted to put something a bit more characteristic in there. But this is probably the best part of the time now to bring in the main hook of the track. Anyway, so that bit. So that's that. So we'll put all of the drums in at that point. But what we'll do, I suggest is, oh, sorry, I've just messed up there. What I would suggest there is we'll do some more filtering, some sort of build up here. So we're kind of putting maybe a disco sort of rise sample. You know, like a what would you call them? A vibrato sample. So I'm going to find one in here, like let me show you what I mean. Yeah, something like that. So you want to give the track a bit some sort of build up, excitement, if I like, if want's a better word. So here, look, we'll put a load of reverb on off the send, bit of delay, mind the volume on it because it'd be quite loud, and we just want that to be at the end there like that. So we're dropping back down again. Don't forget we're going to add the vocals as well. So they'll give it another layer. Then the vibrato comes in. And away we go. Repeat. So yeah, that's kind of where your main body would come in, your main hook, if you like, and then you'd use it again, but keep the claps going, and maybe the cowbells and the perk loop, which is the snare sort of thing. Pop in a crash. Quite loud, that, down to minus 30. Yeah, so there you go. Is everyone okay with seeing how that's developing? Bear with me. So just keep it nice and steady on the build up, and then just drop the kick. Also with disco, it's always important to try and use as many organic drum sounds as possible. Try to stay away from synthesized sounds, which I already mentioned. Then the claps. You could put some delay on the claps here. You could automate the delay like this, just at this section, and then. Gives it that little bit of so it's just those claps there, look. If you listen, just automate them just at that last bit. Then back again. Give it a bit of character, I suppose, tiny little details. Away you go. That tiny bit there that's just kind of sounds a little bit too off. Right. Drop it down. Reverb on those. And it repeats again. Snip that off actually at the beginning. You could actually fade that in there. You could just bring that down just slightly at that point by a few decibels. That's better. But there, what you could do is have 4 crashes. You shorten the crash 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it goes like this up. Bang. The orange tabs on the samples. Do you mean when I'm in here? The transients, Chris? Is that what you mean? Yeah. Basically, that's warping. So sometimes if you look into a loop with the loop, so for example, a loop, let's look at this pink one. Can you see they're not quite on the line? Like here, look, there's one. The starting point of that drum sound isn't on the line. So you double click on it and pull it in and it will time it up. Times it up with your kick. So what you have to do is get the highest peak of each of those waves and pull them into the nearest line, the closest line to the right or the left, wherever it may be. It's usually on loops that it's the easiest to do with musical loops. Vocals are quite different. You have to put your vocals from beats into complex or pro, and it just changes the way that it warps. It's like just like beat matching on a DJ, on a DJ system. as I say, Chris, regarding loops, some loops will work perfectly fine. This track's been recorded really tightly in its natural form, so it's naturally going to sound tight. Some disco records are really, if you listen to Patrick Adams' disco, some of that's way off, but it's brilliant, but it takes a long time to warp. Some records are difficult, some are not so bad. House tracks, for example, if you sample a house track, put it in, it's really tight because it's all been digitalized anyway. But old disco records that are recorded in the old days will need a lot of transition markers moving and timing up. So we've got the main loop. It's between this purple one and this orange one that where we're coming to. So after we've done this bit, which works perfectly. So I was going to suggest chopping this down or filtering this bit down here. So, for example, have a look. Chop that down. Back up. Like that. So you've just got an extra layer of character on there. But there, maybe you should just have the kick and the crash for now, where it kind of drops down just to a... So here, like this. So it just gives it time to rebuild again. Again, that's all out. So obviously you've got to do a bit of warping on that. Okay. So I'd repeat that twice, and then I'd build it back up again. So on the second one, I'd introduce the hat. At this point. Then the collapse again, there. Repeat it one more time again. And then at this point, we're going to come back in with the loop. So we're going to drop the kicks out for the last 4. And then we'll either go back into this green one. It will work, or we go straight back into this one. I think it's too soon. I think it needs a build up. So what we could do is go straight back into the green one, then back into the pink. So we're coming back round again. The whole point, the purpose of it is to not to be too complicated and be quite repetitive. And then so we copy all that over like so. Got the kicks out, and then have those 4 crashes again like that. And back again. We're not doing a lot of editing and stuff. Once we've done the main loops, we're kind of just repeating what we've already got. We're working with what we've already got, rather than overcomplicating things. That's what I'm trying to do here, is trying to give you the idea of simplifying everything, because a lot of people I know, a lot of people that come to me and I work with, tend to not release stuff because they're just overwhelmed and they've got too many ideas and too many tracks on the channel, too many channels on the track, and it stops you from developing quicker. I just think it does anyway. It just stops you from being productive. Too many tools in the shed, you don't need too many tools. So yeah, that's just what I would suggest. Then get this last one we've got over here, and this can be our outro bit. So now I've got all the loops in the track, get rid of all that, clear all that up, and then obviously let's have a look at how long the track is that we've done. So let's go back to the start. We are at the 5-minute mark already, so you're ready for the outro. So there we go. So we're away. We've got to do the outro, and then we can work on the vocal. That bit, that section, then main loops, filtered loop on this here. Give it some character. Then it comes in full swing. going to bring up a bit more EQ on that. This, by the way, is a compressor. If you're going to ask, I'm going to show you that later. But it's a free compressor by the Klanghelm MJU. It's really good. It's got a good punch to it, which I'll come back to in a bit. Then we've got the main body, which is the pink one. And it drops out again, the kicks drop out, the hi-hats drop out, could even drop the perk out, which I would think would be better. Keep the claps and the cowbells, 2 simple sounds, filter down, and back in again and back into that loop. And that gives us a kind of a breakdown, sort of a break from the main body. But then we want to come back into it, so all we're going to do is repeat what we've already created as one. Imagine it like a verse chorus approach. And again, you know what that sounds like. Back in, second chorus, if you like. So that's that bit. Then we're bringing the white noise again over here, put that into the gap there, the 4 crashes, drop out the 4 kicks. And then we're away with, I'd say, claps, hi-hats, both hi-hats, but leave out the perk and the cowbells this time. And there we go. That's just a really nice way of ending the track. And at this point, start to filter it down. Then drop out the 4 kicks on that bit. Then at that point, what we'll do is we'll have 1 round of drums again. Then put the loop in, but then we'll really filter it down at the bottom. So kind of really drop the filter like this. Obviously not that low, but I'm just going to get this right here. You've kind of got a, bear with me a sec. So you've kind of got a baseline sort of filtered there, but it's just rumbling. Keep it rumbling. Keep it going. Back the 4 kicks again, and then finally a last round of drums, and we'll get the crash in, just 1 crash, put 1 crash in there as well, and there, and probably put your riser noise there. That point, and then we'll lose the kicks for the last 8 on this one, then a rise again, and there we are. I think that crash isn't quite right. That's it there. So that's it. That's the basic arrangement of an upbeat sort of edit, where we've extracted the vocal. Now we're going to do some sort of vocal chops on it, which is going to, we'll spend the next 10 minutes or so doing that.
Don't take no medicine. Take a little of this. It worked for me.
I don't know what that is, Will. So obviously we've got the chorus bits in here, and there's a duet as well with 2 singers. So whether or not we want the chorus vocal, probably just want to get some of the ad-libs and put them throughout and kind of make it sort of a bit dubbing. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this. What I do with vocals is 2 ways. I put one through a simpler, and then I break that up and I chop it up, you know, like on the pads or on the keys. And then it was, oh, right, I get you all. Oh, Sanford and Sons was, yes, it was, I know what you mean. But yeah, so the vocals, a lot of them are repetitive. A lot of ad libs at the end. A lot of them are repeats, so we don't really. You could have that hook, "Love Will Fix It." That works through the track because. So we'll bring it down to a fresh channel. Let's have a look. So something like, you know, you want a hook, but you don't want the chorus. So just take that away. Something like that would work. So you could have that, and it could be called the "Love Will Fix It" edit. You know, something very simple. But I think, in terms of the majority of this vocal, a lot of that's ad-libby stuff. So that one might be good at the end. You could have some of that at the end here. But let's get down to the early vocal here. Look, let's have a look. Same thing again. It's the same loop, same hook. And they're just simple oohs on that one. So you could choose, you're going to basically get rid of most of that because you're only going to need one of those really, or two of them, depending on the variation. That's the main bit. Little bits like this are really good to have throughout. Little bits like that, I've found it. See, that's good. And then you could, with that, you can delay it as well. We'll put loads of delay on it. And then
coming at you is a sure thing.
So this bit, something where there's a lot of vocals. So something where there's a lot of vocals in there. So this bit, I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to slice to new MIDI track. And it's going to create 62 pieces of vocal for me, which is, so now, well, if it does that, take the loop length off and just turn that all the way down. And it's some of it's very quiet. So again, let's boot it up with a bit of compression. And then a bit of EQ. So get me EQ back up what I wanted. Top end. So rise the top end and turn the bottom off to a low pass, bring it in. So we don't want any of the lower noise. So what you could do, this is the way I do it. I'm not going to map it all out, but I'm going to show you how it's done because we're going to jump onto the other edit soon. But the way is to run the track through, mute the vocal, the original vocal, put some delay on, some reverb, and then just kind of jam a riff over it with all the notes. So the best example I can give you this is, you know, the Nightcrawlers track, Push the Feeling On by MK. He does that technique like this. It's kind of like a Jay Dilla sort of thing where they mess about with all the samples. And this is the way to do it with the vocal because the track we're doing is in the key of the vocal. Any of the notes that we play on here are going to be in key with the track. So we haven't got to worry about which notes to play. It will all fit, you see. So how's it going? See, so all the different unique sort of patterns you can make. Until you find a loop that you like, you know. You know what I mean? Just do you get what I'm trying to say there? It's that you're creating your own sort of tiny little vocal scats rather than using the original vocal, which you can do. You can just jot the original vocal over it and take parts of it, which is what I'll also do. But because a lot of the vocals are repetitive,
don't take no medicine, take a little of this.
So we could take the main, you could take, I mean, as I say, you could take away the main hook and we just want to have the little bits. It's about the track. So I don't want to use the found a cure bit, I just want to use these little bits. So they will work. We've got them down there. So if we put them over here and mute that. So that there, you would obviously with vocals warping as well. Let's get into the warping vocals. That's good. So to return to pro, and then, thank you, Mike. So that's what you want for these build-ups. It's just small ooh yeahs and woos and stuff. Another one there. But that yeah is coming in a little bit too late. So that's better. Let's have a look if we've got enough delay on that. With, as I say, with EQing vocals as well, once we're on to the subject, take away the bottom end. You can even, in fact, cut off number 1 and change number 2 to a low pass. And raise 3 and 4. And then you could have this bit. We just went bump. The eye came. Can you see how it's off there? Look, so bring it in, line it up, and then move it across. There you go. You're keeping that sort of natural element of the track without using the chorus. And then you could use the original snippets of this, original licks, then go over to keys here. Look. However you want to pursue that, that could take you for a long time. Every syllable is broken up. But yeah, so you just drop them into a simpler, and then they turn into that, and they're all on here. Look. So if you've got an Ableton push, again, you can come up with so many different complex rhythmic patterns. So that's that on the vocal front there. Over in the main bit, I would have the I found it bit there. I found it. So let's get the main. Where's that? Where's that bit?
I promise this.
I found it. I promise it. See, so you can take that bit. See, it's all trial and error. I'm going to take that section, and then let's go over to down here. Paste that there. So I'm going to have I found it. I found this. Whatever it is. Where's that bit? Where's it gone? I think I picked the wrong piece up. Sorry. I found it. Was it in there?
I promise.
That one. Let's cut that. So let's cut that out there, and then paste that down here. Why is it copied? Oh, that's mine. So that bit, that whole there, I was playing the wrong track. Sorry, bad, so bad. I'm nervous. So there, for the main chorus, we'll have "Who Love Will Fix It." Turn up the volume at the fader there, lot. So. Some of them are a bit out, so you have to go back on these vocals. So again, forward a bit. So that bit works well over that there. So you could repeat that twice, and then at this point have that second vocals over. come back. If let me give you another tip on warping. If you've got a warped section here and you've warped all of this bit, and that's perfectly in time, but this section is out, double click there, and whatever you move on this side will not affect this side. So if you don't do that, when you move that lot, it'll affect that side. And it might be a bit of an obvious one for some people, but it's quite common that people can get mixed up in that. So put a divider in between. So the one you've warped previously won't be affected when you're moving over here. Just a simple tip that many people can forget. There's that out. There we go. There you go. And back, we go back to this. And there you go. So that's kind of a crash course in editing a upbeat disco record and ways to do vocals. Chris, warping, yeah. So you understand that once you get the hang of warping, it's pretty it gets a lot easier. It's a pain in the neck when you're doing stuff that's complex, but vocals and stuff can be complicated. So let's just have a quick rip through that and then we'll move on to the next one. So it's I've gone to 6 minutes here, look. 6 minutes and 5. Which ain't bad for an edit. Anything over that these days, people are so impatient now. You know. Listen to Ron Hardy's edits and Larry Levan and stuff. They're old tracks. They're like 8, 9 minutes, 10 minutes long. People ain't got the patience anymore. DJs only get 1 hour sets now, don't they? Nice one, Mike. It's just about keeping everything simple. Don't overcomplicate things, and you'll just make more work for yourself if you keep layering and layering. Obviously that vocal is quite raw there, but you get the idea. Just take small woo-yeahs and ad-libs and just drop them in rather than using the main chorus stuff. That's what you want to avoid. Whatever. Then drop. Then it comes back round again, one more chorus, and then out. Boris, question on major effects on the original sample art. In terms of effects, it's just the auto filter, EQ, as taking the EQ off and putting some rising, some mid-range and top. It all depends on what the sample is as well. This is quite a thin sample. It's not very heavy on the bass. So I've taken out the bottom end, dipped it like there. You can bass it up if you want some more bass. It probably would sound better with a bit more bass there. So, and then there's a compressor on the loop just to give it a bit of punch, because the MP3, the WAV file I've got, probably isn't one of the greatest. And it's just got a small compression on it, but we're going to get into that in a second. Next up then, before I do anything else, is if we go to session view, you've got your delay and your reverb on your sends over here. And then we've got A and B. I will create another one, another return track. And on that return track, I will stick a compressor on it. Like, oh, sorry, I've put it on the wrong one. So on B, sorry. So if I put this onto B, and this is just called, and that's the compressor. So on there, what we'll do is we'll, on each individual track before the final mix down, is we'll put on some compression from the B channel. I don't seem to have, what's happened there? Why have I lost that? Let's have a look. B and C. Right, okay. So on the B, here, look, we will now, for example, let me loop this, the disco loop. We've got a compressor on that anyway. So, but what we'll do on, say, for example, on the kick drum. On the kick, you'll be able to add an extra punch to it by sending it all through the delay, the send channel, rather than having individual ones, which, you know, makes the CPU bad. So that's usually only a good thing for instruments, basically. So yeah, I know, Chris, sorry, mate. For some reason it's gone. It's because I've added one. I've chucked it in between A and B. It's made C change into B. It's just I should have just dragged it to the end. It's the chain. It makes no difference on here, but it has changed. Yeah, that's my bad, I think. But it still works in the same. I should have pulled it across there like that, but I didn't. So you've got a compressor on there, and sometimes there's another thing I've got in here, which is, and I can't remember, I think, where it was. There's this plugin I've got. I don't know if it's that, but there's like a rack thing that beefs up the tracks. I put them in there as well. It's like a saturator. You know, you can use saturators as well if you want to. Where's my saturators in here? Drive and color. So you could put some saturation on one of these as well. So let's just, for example, put it into there. Replace the compression for now. Put it on the same channel. I would always change it to soft sine. And when with saturation, let's just get the loop up, the disco loop, and put some saturation on it on channel B. See, it's all clipping. It's not very pleasant. So what I would do is change it to soft sine on there. Leave that drive there. There's a trick on saturator where if you turn down the output by 1 decibel, you turn the drive up by 1 decibel. So you minus on the output 1 decibel, plus 1 decibel on the drive. Obviously, you can see it's clipping now anyway, so we'll need to lower that in the mix so we can get it down anyway. Regarding mixing, I think we should jump into the mixing session now. So you've got the idea of the arrangement, you've got the idea of the vocal chops. I think in terms of mixing, what we'll do is we'll loop the track here and then do a kind of brief mix down to show you how to kind of mix things. So on your master channel, don't have anything on the master channel, nothing, no plugins, nothing. Get it down to -6 on the level there, and then go back to here, and then we'll look at lowering all the levels as low as we can on here. Look, so I'm going to loop the main bit first, which is the disco loop. It's the most powerful sound. So I brought it down. If I take off that send B, you can hear it's just some power has disappeared. You're just giving it an extra layer, basically. That's what we do without EQing it and pushing it more to the top. So if we put that in the kick off, the kick drum, it's got a bit of EQ here, about 70 to 80. You could round it off slightly at the end here and bring it down to about 50. At 15 now, look. So you see it's pumping through, not clipping on here. It's still clipping on here, look. So we need to lower the kick a bit more. Now, what I put on my drum channels, on my master channel, is a plugin called the Voxenga Analyze Spectrum. And I stick this over here, look. You can see it's clipping. So the kick drum, if you find it clipping, but only slightly, just bring down the send stuff that you've put on there. So if you put in a compressor on the send, or your EQ gain itself, or your master gain, just drop it a notch, and that's clear, look. Then put your claps on. And then in the claps, you put the EQ on. So let's take the EQ and oops, wrong one. In the EQ, we'll take the bottom end out. So we turn off number 1, turn off number 2, change number 3 to a low pass, raise number 4, like so. But you don't want it to go too high, that would be too tinny, sound too electronic. Just enough to raise it there. Bring it back a bit to give it a bit more punch. So you see, just around there, we don't need any of this section. And then pan it slightly to the right to 1 o'clock. Put your kick back on. And then what we'll do with the perk loop, which is kind of the snare loop, put that on and we'll pan that to the left. So we get the snare on the left, clap on the right, so they're over here. And you could, to give them some depth, go to utilities and put a wide stereo on there. And that really broadens it out. And again, some EQ on there. Take the number 1 off, change number 2. And just look how bright there now. So you've got your crisp clear, snap snare, and clap snare. Then your cowbell. Bring that down the mix. Let's look at the spectrum. Not clipping, look, you see. Can you see that spectrum? Can you see the plugin of the spectrum, everyone? Yeah, cool. Because some of the pop-ups don't work sometimes on Zoom. So that works. Again, with the cowbells, EQ. Nothing down here, look. So there's no point in having those 2 on. So turn them off. Change that. Rise it. Just to bring out that brightness on that cowbell. Pan that to 1 o'clock. Or left. Better at 1 o'clock. Then your hi-hat. An EQ on the hi-hat. Lose number 1, change 2 to a low. Bit more tinny and bring the volume down. Hats to the left, 11 o'clock. Slightly, bit of reverb. There we go. Then your open hat. Same process with the open hats. So if you was to get for some reason my screen's gone funny. Open hats there. Again, exactly the same process. So you cut out 1 and 2, change 3. There you are. And then check your, you see it's clipping again at the top, so you knock it down a little slight. There we go. No clipping, there's no red dots. 1 there, look, in the seat. And then for your white noise, obviously this is a crash course, don't forget this is going to take you a lot longer, but for white noise, my master tells me to take all compression off, but it sounds so much better. It depends what you're doing. I mean, I've put the compressor on just to boost the frequencies of the loop because the loop's not flying. Do you know what I mean? It's not heavy. But with the compressor on this send channel, it just gives it an extra punch before you're mastering. So when I mean, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. You're mastering, it's probably right in some respects. I'm no professional on that technical side of things, but it's all. There's no right or wrong way of doing it, really, is there? It depends what works for you, but it sounds good as it is. It depends on the sample. If your sample is weak or quieter, then it's wise to put some on, I would say, early. Again, with the white noise sound, take out the bottom end, put it up, and just follow the loop of the thing. So let's go back in. And your vocals, obviously, put some compression on that. You could pan your vocals slightly left. The compressor is, I'll send you the link for it in a second. Let me just find it's called the Klanghelm compressor. It's a free one. And this company here do it. It's just, I'll send you, I'll put it in the chat now. The link is for the compressors. There's all sorts of stuff on there, but it's in that one. It's in there's some really good stuff in there, saturators and everything. There's a few free ones at the bottom of the link I've just put in. You'll see them at the very bottom. They're worth getting. They're really old school analog ones, and they're just dead powerful. So the vocals, make sure you've got your delay on it. Nice to have a bit of delay, about 3 o'clock on the send. And there we go. Let's look at the spectrum. Loud, that vocal. And as you can see, there's no clipping on the master. So what that means is, now once these tracks finally mixed, you've got no red dots on the master spectrum. That's good to go, and you can bounce that as a wave, and then you can put that through to mastering, as long as it's obviously -6 or -7 on the volume, and then you've got all that 6-7 decibels of space for the mastering engineer or the mastering algorithm software you use to punch it through and make it a bigger mix. So that's that. That's simply explained, hopefully, and that keep it simple. So that's all you got to do, is keep it really simple. So that's the Ashford and Simpson. Can these edits with vocals be sent to stream services backup? My edits out of problem. So the only way you can get away with, I mean, it's difficult, really, Mike, because edits are sold on Spotify or streamed on Spotify and so forth. I mean, look at TrackSource's top 50. There must be at least 40 samples in there that are not accounted for. And the thing is now, unless you have a hit record, the record labels generally won't chase you, because if you're using a sample of, say, Chic, for example, which is a really well copyrighted disco record, a band, if you was to sample that in a track and it was just a track that you put out to your friends, you sold a few MP3s here and there, it's not the interests of the record label to pursue that. Only if it became a hit record would it be worth pursuing. Do you see what I mean? For the label to be interested. I mean, you know, I've sampled various artists over the years. I've never had any comeback, but on Bandcamp as well, you can sell stuff on Bandcamp. I know loads of people that do edits on Bandcamp, and they do all right out of it as well. So it's worth looking into Bandcamp first, I would say. But that, in general, does that answer your question, Mike? Is that all good? Yeah. As I was saying, iTunes is the same thing with Spotify. It depends on how. For example, if we just put that edit out ourselves, then I don't know if it would get picked up. It's owned by Warner Brothers. Ashford Simpson, obviously a global recognized stars, but you would probably get away with it, but don't quote me on that. You know, I'm just saying, it's like, but Bandcamp would be your first port of call, I would say, and then maybe a TrackSource. I mean, you look at TrackSource, as I say, it's fueled with samples. It's loads and loads of them. So yeah, it's kind of a shooting in the dark syndrome, really. You don't know what's going to land, and what's not. But you're not. What's the worst that could happen? They're not going to sue you for millions of pounds, because you know, you're not going to have millions of dollars, are you, to give? So take the chance, I would. It's the Wild West out there now, the music industry. There's no set rule anymore. Right, so I'm going to do a small, for the last session, I'm going to do a shorter edit, but this time I'm not going to extract anything. It's going to be a straight up old school edit style. This is a slow one at 100 BPM. Last one was 120. And this one is an old disco record by a guy called Blair. And it's a record called Nightlife. It's this. So it's 100 BPM. I think the original is 89 BPM. So I've pitched it up 11 BPM. Just a really cool little groove. And it's a very similar process to the last one. You've done this already, Boris.
Styling, cool and clean on this groovy scene, sharp as I can be.
So we've got pretty much the same groove all the way through until it gets to here. It's really funky there. A bit busy there. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to use any of that end bit. I'm just going to use the first bit and I wouldn't say the choruses, but the verse bits we're going to use them. I'm going to use a couple of verses. This bit.
On this groovy scene.
I'm not going to use that bit.
Turns me on.
I've just got this thing about not using the although 89 BPM in the clip. However, does this translate in the main tempo? No, it's not a question of that at all. How does this translate in the main tempo? So basically it's 89. It's if I slow it down to 89, that's its natural speed. But I just wanted it to have a bit more power. And you know, and then when you put your drums on, now what I've done with this track, here we go, there's the main groove. That's what we're going to use throughout. Cool. So, with this track then, yeah, just bring the tempo up on the master. Yeah, sorry, Boris, I misunderstood what you meant there. Yeah, just pitch it up. Some records will sound terrible fast, like, but that sounds, even that's at 120 though. You could get away with that. So I added some synth on there, but it depends on some loops. If it's a slow disco record, try and keep it a slow disco record. So again, with this one, the whole point of this record is that I didn't want to use the chorus, but I wanted to use some of the vocal hooks. So it's going to be used. Only to this point. And at that point there, I said, it's going to go back into the groove. This is another sure way of making faster edits. So let's change that. This bit, not interested in that. So that bit there could be used, that tiny fraction there. Use that in a filter. So that could be used. There's another groove. Really simple little loops there. But the whole purpose of this one is just to try and have just vocals. Get rid of all that. There.
Pretty girl.
And that's it. And that section there is what we want for the next one. So we'll have that over here. Just keep them there. And then so that bit there, I like that bit as well. Put that in there. And then
Turns me,
because this, if you tell the difference between this record and the last one was really tight. This one's a lot more loose and chuggy. So, what we're gonna do and just get rid of all that. A lot going on. So we're just literally going to get rid of all of that, and we're just going to stick with just this. The warp of this one was quite, yeah, I can imagine, Boris. It's the difference between this and the last one is just really, because this is a lot more swinging to this, so it's going to be naturally be a lot more time consuming. So in terms of drums for this, again, we want a snappy snare, so like a really sort of high but trebly sort of like that, like an old school snare. A good snare to use would also be one off Rick James's track, Mary Jane Girls, All Night Long. The intro of that kind of snare is what you want, that hard hitting but bright at the same time. So we've got that kind of snare for this. And I think the kick is slightly different. Is it the same kick on this one? It's a different kick on this one. It's very similar to the last one I used. Not sure if it is. I think it's the same kick. It is. Oh, that one. Yeah, it's the V one. I've got the V kick this time, which is in my favorites. There. Just got a bit more punch to it on this one. I always keep a handful of kicks. Don't have any more than 3 or 4. These are my favorite kicks in here. Look, one for harder stuff. That's one. House one. Techno ones. And that's it. And there's one down here somewhere. I've got. That's it. They're the only kicks I'll ever use in the whole track. So when you remember, next time you're making a track and you've got umpteen kicks, just get rid of them and just keep those few that you like. So kicks and the snares. That snappy snare, you can hear it. Just hit better. And the clap again, it's a sort of live hand clap. That's what you want to go for with edits. And can you see, if you look at this, it's over. It doesn't come in on the line. It's slightly off. So it comes in early. It's like an early delay. Clap. That's what you want. And then hi-hats. For the hi-hats on this, I wanted live hi-hats again. And what I did was in Ableton's drum rack, you've got the Borgia kit, which is obviously alphabetical. It's there. It's just got some really cool claps of it. But the hi-hats on this, on these drums, are just really good. So for live, you know. And I've shortened it here. Look, I didn't want the delay on it, the decay. Sorry, to shorten it and make it sharp. And there you go. Conga loop as well. And that's all we need. And we'll need a crash, obviously. And then the loop. That's it. It's all there. And then a drum fill at the very end here, which is this one, look. And at that will come in like this, look. And after the drum fill, what we'll have is a crash. So we'll get the crash acoustic 13 again, which is my favorite crash. And then just go. So and that's it. So let's get to the loops again. Right, so we're going to start the track with just drums. No loops, not going to filter the loops this time. I'm just going to go straight in with the click, the kick and the snare, crash at the bottom. Just keep it like, some reverb on that snare, by the way. About 11 o'clock. And then the drum fill is going to come in. Let's get this just right. The drum fill is going to come in at the, there, look. But that needs some reverb as well. Same with the drum fill, what we said earlier about the reverb. Have a room, bright room, delay, so dry wet about 20, probably 30, and a slight bit of delay at about midday. That's nice. And we'll bring that in, and then at that point we'll bring the crash back in again. This is all subjective, by the way. You know, you don't have to follow the rule that I do. What we could do actually at the start is have the hi-hats in, but just take out the open hat. So what we can do is, let me just loop these. Okay, right click, consolidate that, get rid of that. What the hell was that? Double click, and we'll just take away the, there. See, but you, that second one, I would have it like that. So we've got an opener for the hi-hat, so it's not so dry. And then at the second point, we'll bring in the open hat as it stands. So it looks like this, look. So you've got one there. And then it goes to this bit. And then your loop would come in. So we'd have the loop underneath there. Would filter it. Like so. Just going to make them a longer. And then we'll get to the looping in a second. So we'll turn on the keychain there. Auto filter it. Frequency it. Just move it about there. Bring it up. And have it like that. Make that longer. So bring it down more. Then bring your claps in. Crash. And it's just building chuggly now. And the next part of the loop, we want it to be with the riff, which is at this point. So we're going to get rid of that, bring that in there like so. Drum fill. And then repeat, and we'll change the color of that so we know that it's a different sound, like this. But what we're going to do with the vocal on this is we're going to take a snippet out of there where it says "I said," and then that drops down. You could bring back those closed hats again, like so. Bear with me a second. I'm not sure I'm going to use that bit till the end. But what we'll do is we'll bring this in as a drop down. Then when this kicks back in, we'll put the kicks back in and the open hats at the top, and then the congas will come in. And then we'll go round one round here, and then the vocal will start to appear. So this will go like this, look. Nice and steady. Kick drops out. The open hat drops out. You see up here, look. Keeping it smooth. Then it should come back in here. Sorry, there you go, look. Like that. then back in. Put them in as well, obviously. And this is at the 1.5. This is almost 2 minutes already. At this point, we're going to bring that first vocal in just on its own, maybe with the claps.
Darling, cool and clean on this groovy scene, sharp as I can be.
That's not the first one, is it? Is it the first one?
Darling, cool.
Yeah, that's the first one. So there. But then also don't forget to do the same technique again. What you've got to remember is when you're developing your own style, or you're learning to develop your style, you've got to have these little repetitions of the way you do things. This is how I do things, and I'll always have white noise. If you notice, I do a lot of repetition, and that's because you've got to keep your workflow. You can keep evolving, but your basic workflow will always stay the same. And I'll always use crashes and white noise. There you go, and it helps with transition.
Sharp as I can be, mellow, smooth and free. Been working hard all day. Tonight I'm ready.
Now at this point, this is where it's going to change.
Feel like king of the land. This grooving is my plan. I said.
So that bit I said, that's what's going to be the difference in how it goes back to the loop. So I'm going to create an audio channel, and I'm going to pull that section there only down to that channel. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn up the delay to, let's put some reverb on it about midday, and then I'm going to put the delay to about between 2 and 3 o'clock, and then you'll see what I mean. And then so we're going to delay that last vocal bit, and we're going to go back into the loops, which is this section. So then let's pull that across like this. You ready? So it goes like this.
I'm ready to play. Feel like king of the land. This grooving is my plan. I said.
And then you got that delay in that vocal. So you can just catch it. It rolls over slightly. Obviously, when we've put some EQ on it, it won't be so jittery. So let's just quickly put the EQ on and take the bottom end out. It's got that. It's quite a bit of delay on that. So maybe take the delay down to about 1. That's better. It's just not so rumbly because the drum underneath was rumbling. So it goes like that.
I'm ready to play. Feel like king of the land. This grooving is my plan. I said.
And there you go. You've kept that groove. And then there you put in another one of those. Look. So it goes like this. Wrong part. Bye. But obviously we would turn the volume down a little bit on that. So you know what I mean? You're keeping the vocal going. You're just giving it a bit of a. And then for the last one, you won't put one in. Because what you're going to do on the next one is you're going to bring in the second vocal. But what we could do first is we could keep it going for another section like this. Bring that over like that. Keep that out of the way. So we'll keep that actually going in that gap there. 1, 2, 3 there. There we go. And not have it on the M1, because what we can do in this part, in this track, I'm just going to give you another tip here by adding layers and stuff. So I've got a synth up here, which is basically a monopoly. It's just this this synth here. You can use any synth, obviously. I've got this up here, look, and it's just like an analog string pad. One thing to do, if you've got a track that's like this, that is not a lot of musical stuff going on. It's pretty much one key, one chord, 2 chords at the most. And the chord for this is B minor. The way to work out, obviously, I'm going to show you how to work out if you hear something. If you're not too familiar with playing by ear and things like that, you go to your spectrum analyzer in Ableton, put it onto the loop, and you open it up like this, so you get the bigger graph. Play the track, and then what you do is the highest peak in that grid, go up to it, and it's coming up there with a G. So it's pretty much it's in a G. It doesn't. It's not. That's not. That can't be right. There. You see, look. You go up. It's got to get it right. It's really complicated. It's really a bit of a faff. It's a bit fiddly. But it's saying it's G and that, but it ain't. That's weird. But basically, normally with the Spectrum, what you should do is it works out the key for you. So it tells you what key that actual part of the track is. It says G there, but it ain't. It's B, but it could be part of G major, but it's not. So it's using 2 notes of the G chord, so maybe it's using B and D. So just coming up as B minor, but there's no G in there, which is weird. But generally, I made myself look stupid there, but generally, that is how you work out how to, there, look, there's a B. On that peak there, look, the B there, look, which is there. So they're the notes to use. So basically, in that gap, the point is, make a riff. Chordify, yeah. With Chordify, is that the one where you play the video and on a YouTube video, and then it shows you the chords as you go along? Yeah. I've used that quite a few times when I'm working out tracks. So yeah, Chordify, guys, as well. But to do it quick on a loop, 9 times out of 10, the Spectrum Analyzer will do it for you. But yeah, I don't know why it's picking that G up. So that's B, D. And then you can use any note out of that chord. So B minor 7 is A, B, D, and F sharp. So then you can make a small riff around the second half of this. So you've got your first half doing that, plain. And then when you get to this point, or I mean, that's quite a sinister sound. That's quite a trancey sound anyway. But if I was to get up Tyrell, let's get the old Tyrell up, put that in here, which is free. If you've not got the Tyrell, get the Tyrell. This is a monster machine. It's free as well, completely free. Get Boogie Bass 3 up, change it to a poly, open it up, and then put on some delay, and then you can create a riff around, put some delay, bit of reverb. Drop that volume down a bit. There we go, look. And then you're creating an extra, you know, an extra layer by just adding one simple sound, but the groove is staying the same. That does go to a B. There, look, it goes to a B. I'm not convinced that that's wrong, but still, moving on. So the next part, bring the white noise and the crash back. So let's record a riff in there. Simple riff using the notes of the B minor chord, nothing heavy, and then we'll quantize that. Repeat. Obviously, what you can do with something like the Tyrell sound is you can automate. Excuse me. You can automate the cutoff. So we'll go to click this here, click configure, then move that, and then go back here, and now we've automated it on here. So then what we could do is move this up and down. Give it some character. There you go. And then round we go again. Copy and paste. Straight over. Rises. And then the said bit again. Just that bit there. There. And back we go again. And then you can have another riff. And repeat yourself. I'm not going to use that bit, which I said earlier I was going to use that bit. I just don't think it kind of works now. I think we've created a dubby sort of version of the track, which just happens to be a lot better. And we're up to 3.5 minutes. So we've got two kind of vocal sections, two sections of loops, added a synth. Drums are simple, as you can see. What I've got a kick and a snare. There's this perk thing as well, which we've, which I've not even used. I've taken that away now because it just doesn't need it. Congas, hi-hats, if we bring them down there. We've got so that what we need to do now is kind of get back to this section. So we've got two verses. Then what we'll do, we've got a loop bit there with the riff. And obviously, don't forget to do little things like cutting out the kick drums on your transitions like this. And then allowing where's the drum fill gone? The drum fills, we need to keep them going as well. So we'll put them back. Them going. There. And a crash in there. So yeah, it's a very similar process to the last one, but what we've done is we've made this a little bit more dubby, and because it's a slow track, gives it that vibe rather than having to be quite upbeat. You can experiment a bit more. That's why I put that riff in, and you could even go off at this point, then bring that loop back in there and just have your kick and that going across. So it'd be like this, look, and then the right noise, the white noise, sorry, and put this in there. And you drop down, and you could put this at the very end like this, look. It just gives it a bit of moodiness. Then you could come back in again here. Like that. So you bring that back in like this, look. At the end. And at the end again, like that. And then you have one last round of the main sort of riff. But we need to put the congas in, and we're missing the wrong kind of hi-hats are in them, should be in there, should be. We need to get them the opposite way around, don't we? So they need to be like there, and the yellow ones need to be there. So that point. There. That's right. There we go. That's it. You could have a bit more of the riff. That long notes. pattern there. Simple notes, A and B and D. And then round it comes again. And at this point, you could copy that over again. And that will play out as the outro, sorry. You know, when you make music, you go into autopilot and you don't have to think about the words. And when I'm talking to you and I'm doing it, the words kind of just just skip my head. Because I'm used to just doing it without thinking out loud, if that makes sense. So my apologies if I come across as a bit stuttery sometimes and say the wrong word. And then we want to go back into the orange one again after 4 sections of that. Then we go back into this and then we filter out. So we want some of those vocals to come across us. So we want to copy them over like that. I've done that wrong. Right across. So that at this point, take the kicks out. And away we go. We're filtering out. But we're going to go through the process at this point. Drop it halfway like this and it comes up. So it quite immediately, abruptly filters out. And then have this like at the end again. It's just repetition, as I say. Take the kicks out here. One more. And away you go. So that's it. That's your arrangement for that one. It's quite short and sweet, but it's 5.5 minutes. That is, even that. And again, we've got 1, 2, 3. We've only got 11 tracks in the whole thing, 11 layers, and 3 of them are pretty much sound effects. I say sound effects, but they're not in very often, which is the drum fill, the crash, and the riser. They're just filler sounds. So if you take those away, we've literally got 8 sounds in the whole track that are continuous, I suppose. And even the riff is just only in for 2 small sections. So basically, the track really is what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main hooks, main parts of the track. So again, keep it simple, minimize it. Don't get carried away with layering and layering and layering. So let's have a look what we've got. Just keeping that nice sort of drum. And the same process applies to this with the mixing. Do the similar mixing we did on the last one. Cutting out the frequencies and panning the drums as well. So the pan and the snare. The snare would be, where's the snare there? And the claps on the snare to the right. Add the reverb. If you want to beef it up, add another 10 channel and put the compressor on the 10 channel. And the crash down and put on, make sure that your analyzer, which is in here, keep one of these on your channel so you can see the levels. See it's flipping, so nice and steady, just chugs along, nice and easy. You don't have to get busy, you don't have to be overproducing. Just take the best bits out, 3 or 4 loops out of the whole record, all you need. And then drops. You're just using, the thing is, edits should be quite dubby anyway, in many senses. You don't want to just repeat the original, no point. why I say take the choruses away. And there you go, just round it goes. And then in comes the riff. We've added the synth to it. Bar a couple of little loops there. That'll be the kick drum that's making it pop. That's your second burst, like, and back again. And you could add more synths there. You could add another sort of pad there or a Rhodes. Have a look. You could have some sort of riff in here, even though it's got a Rhodes riff. Whatever, you know. And then it drops in here. We'll filter it down. So we're going, just giving it a bit of a break. Filtering the loop down there. Well, I say if it's filtered, is it? It's just, it's not even filtered, it just drops nicely, that does, which is good. And then bring your drums back in, your snare and your clap. You've got your closed hat seal up, so building. And around we go again. And then out it goes. And then it just abruptly filters. Slice it in half. And then at the very end, it's important to take the kicks out and have one more of that echo vocal, the delayed vocal, and your white noise and your drum fill, and then it closes off the music and you can go into your outro drums. And then again, just repeat the drums at the end. You could even have another I said vocal at the end there, which would be quite good. So that's it. There's all I can give you on edits and you know, in a short space of time. Obviously, if you want to do more and more, obviously you can get in touch with me and we can do one-on-one sessions. But I hope that's everything explained to you. Is everything good? What does that say? Thanks, Chris. Boris, thank you. You're welcome. Stepped away from a second. What does that say? If you have time, can you demo how you export a song? Exporting the song, yeah, quickly, of course. So this, just imagine that this is done. This is all done. I'm happy with the mix. Just make sure that it's -6 or thereabouts on your master channel. And I would simply just go to export, master, leave it as it is, wave 16 triangle, and just export it as one wave. And then when I've done that, I tend to put it into Audacity and just check that the wave is small enough and it's okay. And if it's too loud, obviously, then I'll come back in and I'll take down the notches on here. Never go less than -10, really, Mike. But yeah, that's what I do. Just make sure there's nothing on the master channel. You can take the spectrum off, obviously, before you you bounce it, but I don't think the spectrum will make a difference. It's only processing plugins on your master that will ruin. A good mastering will not fix. When it's what I mean is when you've done a good mix, but you've got stuff on your mastering channel, like if you put compressors on and limiters and things, it's not going to be fixed in the mastering process. So it's going to still sound distorted in the master process because there's too much stuff on it. Just have 0 things on your mastering channel, and then leave 6 to 7, 8 dB so that mastering engineer can do it. Brilliant. Thank you, Boris. So yeah, what I'm going to do, if you could all email me, sounds like a pain in the neck, but if you could contact me here, I'm going to put the email address up now. And then I'll send you the link for all of the stuff. Or what I'll try and do is I'll try and get all your emails out of my website, and then I'll send you the 2 files for this track and the last track, all zipped up, and then the video for this as well, so you've got a reference. So brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. I'll leave that there. Any questions, send me an email, contact me. I'm always available. You know that, through YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. I'm available on all that stuff. Not so much on Facebook these days. I don't tend to have it on my phone much now. So contact me on Instagram at any time of the day. And that's it. Brilliant. Thank you, Alonso. You're welcome. Thanks, Will. Nice to see you.